Okay, I have the micro already. So I asked the presenters from the next panel to come and join us here. So it will be Ingrid Heinens-Hoisted. I hope I did it well. Also, perhaps Gabriel. They are online. So we have online Gabriel Navaja and Rose Gembe. And this is for the two, and then I will share this session with Miyako. So we'll have in the total 5 presentations. So I ask all the presenters to be good with time, so we have time for debates and questions because everyone wants to know more about this. So I will start right away by Ingi, who is the Associate Professor in Mathematics Education at the University of the Faroe Islands in the Faculty of Education. His main research interests involve digital technologies in mathematics education, mathematical competencies, and design research. So please, Ingi.
Hello, yes. Thank you, Annabelle, and thank you to the organizers for this interesting conference and for allowing me to present this small-scale study, design study in the Faroe Islands, aiming to enhance mathematical literacy. Does this work? Yeah. So perhaps you're not too familiar with the Faroe Islands. It's a small country in the North Atlantic Ocean with a population of 55,000 people. It's a self-governing nation within the Danish kingdom. And in relation to PISA, an interesting fact is that the whole student population participates in PISA. So, but that's only 700 students. So the Faroe Islands first participated in PISA in 2006, and the results were quite shocking. The performance of the students was notably lower than all of our neighboring Nordic countries. And this, of course, created shockwaves through the educational system and society as a whole. And in the aftermath, there were initiatives taken, such as including the introduction of low-stakes tests in grades 4 and 6, curricular changes, and also more school time for the students. And in the following PISA cycles, the results actually improved steadily until 2022, where there was a drastic decline again. And you can see here the average score in mathematics, the average PISA score in mathematics for Faroe Islands is at the bottom, and with our neighboring Nordic countries. You can see from 2012 there was actually a steady development up until 2018, where we in fact surpassed the OECD average for the first time, which was quite a milestone. But then in 2025, the score was a decrease in 45 PISA points, which is quite drastic. And perhaps the previous presentation might explain some of them. Perhaps COVID has had an impact. So, following this latest PISA assessment, again, various stakeholders have expressed concerns about the educational system as a whole, and especially about the application of these results into practice. And one question that looms is, while there have been policy changes and curricular changes, to what degree has this actually reached practice in the Faroe Islands? So, with the support from the Ministry of Education, a research group is working on this agenda to explore how we can actually bring PISA knowledge about Faroese students into practice. And a part of this work is a project, a small-scale design project, trying to develop Faroese mathematics school practice. And what I will present here is this project, and we're only in the initial phase of the project. So hopefully at the next PISA conference, I can present you more results. So the approach that we've taken is a tripart approach. First, we have tried to identify certain focus areas. Of course, there are many things to be taken into consideration, but we have to choose certain focus areas for our work. And based on this identification of focus areas, we have designed educational interventions. So that is tasks, teacher guidelines, the implementation of these educational interventions. And also we've developed teacher teams at these schools, which are communities of practice that will support the implementation process. And I will shortly summarize some of our findings. So, of course, when trying to identify focus areas, there are a lot of things to consider, and the PISA data. What I will show you are two things. So, when we look at the mathematical processes and the results from the mathematical processes, in 2022, there are 4 mathematical processes. For the first time, mathematical reasoning is also a distinct mathematical process. And when we look at the Faroe Islands average score in the different mathematical processes, we see that the Faroe students have most difficulties in the processes directly related to the modeling process, that is employing, formulating, and interpreting. And in particular, the process of formulating is what Faroe students have most difficulties with. They are slightly better at mathematical reasoning, which was actually a surprise for us in the research group. And when we compare this to Denmark, which has a school system that is very similar to our own, and also to the OECD average, we do not see the same differences in the results in the different mathematical processes. Another thing I want to share with you is on the Faroe students' use of digital resources. We see here from a background question, the students are asked how often they use digital resources in mathematics lessons, and 40% of the Faroe student population answer never or almost never. And this is quite a difference to the Danish results, where 3% answer the same category, never or almost never. We also know from other sources that Faroe students are very lacking in skills, you could say, in digital resources. For example, in the use of spreadsheet and other common mathematics software. So, in this project, we design teaching sequences for grades 7, 8, and 9. That's ages 13 to 15, and implement them in 3 schools. So it's a very small-scale study. And the focus area of these teaching sequences are on mathematical modeling, and especially on formulating mathematical situations mathematically, and also on computational thinking and spreadsheet usage. And we gathered inspiration from released PISA mathematics items in the design, and also from the PISA mathematics framework. And the design entails 6 teaching sequences of 3 weeks duration. So for grade 7, there's a sequence in the fall and one in the spring, and the same in grades 8 and grade 9. And the project uses design-based research methodology, which at its core is revolved around the design of educational resources and then going out into classrooms, testing these resources and 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 analyzing to what extent these resources are effective as expected, as hypothesized previously in the design. And then, based on this analysis, we redesign the resources and go out again. And then this is an iterative process that is repeated until we are happy with the implementation. And what you see here is the booklet, task booklet cover for the first iteration, which we have just implemented in the first school this fall. So, as I mentioned, this is a project in the initial phase, and it's a 4-year project where we have implemented the first teaching sequence in the first school, in School A, and this will be followed, which is sort of the pilot school, and this will be implemented fully over the next 2 years. We will develop all 6 teaching sequences. And I can say from the first iteration of the first teaching sequence that the teachers find it very difficult to work with this material, and the students similarly, that this formulating situations is not something that they find is coherent with their previous praxis. So at the end of this 4-year project, the plan is to scale up to the rest of the country if the project goes as planned. So another important part of the project is the development of teacher teams at the schools that are participating, which will act as communities of practice to support this implementation process. We know from research that giving teachers resources does not equate to them using these resources as the designer might intend, as the intention is of the designer. There will be an adaptation process because the teacher will already have a system of knowledge and of praxis, and there will be an adaptation process between the resource and the teacher. So to support this implementation process, we create teacher teams at the schools, which receive professional development prior to the implementation process, but also a support system throughout the intervention. And also after each implementation cycle, there is an evaluation together with the teachers. So we're going out into the schools and having these workshops and these seminars and working with the teachers to try and gain ownership of this implementation process. And also there are seminars for all teacher teams at the different schools where they share knowledge and their experiences from implementing these teacher sequences. So to evaluate this the effectiveness of this measurement, there's an evaluation after each implementation cycle, but also the PISA 2029 assessment will be a milestone where we will perhaps see differences. And we, of course, since the entire Faroese student population participates, we are able to identify the progress of these schools that are participating. Also, we are conducting qualitative measures of the implementation process, particularly with the teacher teams, to see if this implementation process that we have set out works as we intended. So to summarize, what I've said in the presentation is that this is an attempt to try and address certain identified mathematical literacy deficiencies in the Faroese student population through a design and implementation of teaching sequences process. And we're really trying to see if we can change something in practice. And so we do this also by developing teacher teams, which are communities of practice to support this implementation. And this model is planned to work as a model for similar interventions in science and in reading to be set in motion. And what I'm really interested in is hearing about similar interventions in your countries. Yeah. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we are going from maths to reading with the next presenters. So very welcome from Spain. We don't have yet the image.
Ay, no, Dios mío, otra vez.
Let's wait. Internet seems faster, but it seems like not. So
Just we are here. We are experimenting some technical problems, but they will be.
so I can, while this is solved, I can present them and see if it works. Otherwise, we will move forward. Here they are. We just see the room.
Yes, we can talk without problem, and we will show the presentation.
Okay, so we have Gabriel and Rosa. Gabriel and Rosa are since 2024 the coordinators of the government of Navarre's plan for the improvement of reading competence. So they will be talking and presenting about the reading. Thank you. Can you share now the screen so if we see everything is okay? Yes, thank you.
Okay. Hello. Thank you very much for your introduction. So we are taking part from Pamplona, the capital of Navarra in the north of Spain. First of all, an outline of the main aspects we will address. We will briefly introduce our region, Navarra, and our PISA results, followed by a short reflection about our contribution to the theme conference. Then we will explain the nature of the plan we are presenting today, and finally some conclusions. So, Spain has participated in PISA since the beginning, and as you can see, most of our students participating in the evaluation belong to our fourth grade of secondary school. Spain has 17 regions, or comunidades autónomas, as we say, and Navarra is one of the smallest. We are there in the north. But we have some independent competencies in education, among others, and related to the subject. It is established that teachers belonging to schools funded by the state, or public schools, as we say, they must do at least 35 hours of training per year. Navarra has participated in PISA with its ensemble since 2006. And we can see in general, we score higher than Spain. And we improved our results over the course of 3 editions until 2018, where we suffered an alarming decrease, and then the improvement in the last edition was hardly significant. So here we are a clearer picture about the increase and the drop in performance. Here we can see also the evolution of lower and higher levels, down and up and up and down. And what is more worrying, 23.4% of students cannot attain the basic competencies, or in other words, use their reading skills to learn. And that's on the basis of these results, and on the basis too on PISA's frameworks, we have designed a teacher training plan. And this plan was designed to have a direct impact on the students. And how is that? It's because the teachers who follow this plan, they have to do 2 tasks that have to be developed with the students in the class practice, because the objective is extending this approach to their daily work. And now my partner Gabriel is going to explain the plan with detail.
Well, okay. The plan is intended to impact in the classroom practice, but we need some common language. We need some support, from the ministry, from the science community. So the PISA reading framework is really a very good common language that we can use. Then all the things that have to do with the test classification, cognitive processes, all the metacognitive competences, and the evaluation culture values that are inside the PISA reading framework are used inside the plan. But we want to impact not only in these PISA results in the future, hopefully, but in the day-to-day methodology that is occurring actually in classes. So for that reason, in the plan, we are highlighting more the interactive reading model than the PISA reading framework. We are using the PISA reading framework. We are teaching the teachers about this framework. We are explaining in detail how it works, everything we are doing here, but we want them to be familiar with this interactive reading model that is inside the PISA reading framework. The PISA reading framework is built on this interactive reading model, and the training then that we have designed and developed is stressing more this in reading model. This reading model, to summarize a little bit, I don't want to go very deep into the model, but what explains us is that we build the meaning in interaction between the text and the reader. The reader has previous knowledge, has some processes going on in their minds, and the text has some difficulties and some goals that were used to write that text. No? So the reader has to be able to recognize the intention of the writer of this text, and has to deal with the different criteria of credibility or other things that in the text can appear, and then build the meaning of the text in this interaction process of understanding. This is something that the readers, the skilled readers that are very well trained, people, well, in the teachers, for example, or just to do it without any big effort for text that we can use at school. But for students, is not this situation. Students are not aware of the strategies that really skilled readers can use to understand a text. So what we want to do in the plan is that all these kinds of strategies that are used to understand the text, for example, to activate our previous knowledge, or to reformulate, to try to tell us in different words some parts of the text that are difficult. These strategies are really taught to the students in an explicit way. We do it in natural ways. We do it really without any effort as teachers and adults, but the problem with the students is that they are not aware. So we want them to be aware of these strategies. So as teachers, we can and we must show people's how to activate these competencies and strategies. That's the main point, and that's what I wanted to stress a little bit. So in the plan, we want to help teachers to ensure the students to develop and use these reading strategies in an explicit way, so very explicit of the way. And we are working with teachers from all departments, from subjects, from mathematics to music, to history, to other subjects, to be sharing this responsibility of building the understanding and the comprehension, the reading comprehension. And we want to build a resource bank of text that can be used to understand and to work in class. So we have a structure like this. We have contacted some experts in the region and in universities that will work with tutors, and then the tutors will work with, they are working already with teachers from third grade and fourth grade in our schools. That means ages of 15 and 16, 14 as well years old. And we have one coordinator for the schools. This is like a summary. In detail, you can see that a tutor is like monitoring some teachers from different schools, more or less one tutor is in different situations, have different teachers to monitor, and in total we have almost 500 teachers getting trained in the program now, and one tutor, approximately 60 teachers, more or less. So in the first phase, some experts trained the tutors during 4 months. That was the last school year. Then during this school year, the tutors are training the teachers. This is something that is going on now. This is happening now. We are in that phase. We have had several sessions about these models and everything. And we have had some small tasks for the teachers between sessions. And now we have started with this third phase where teachers have to choose some text and have to prepare the text with the interactive model and then with processes by PISA. They have to prepare the activities, and they have to take the text and go to the classes and put into practice in classes and observe what have happened there, and then make a small report and send to the tutor. So there is a really very rich process that you can see in focus here: the choice of text, the teacher's approval, all the processes. And we are doing this twice. There are 2 rounds for this, with the aim and the desire that we are impacting a little bit in classes. So that is what we want.
Yeah. Well, in fact, this plan was already placed in 2008 and 2010. We think it had a little impact in our PISA results, as we can see. Then we noted that the approach wasn't established at all, and now we have updated that plan and we have brought it back. So and we hope we will improve our results. We thought its approach, as I said, was already established, but it's not. We think teachers need strong and examples and models of to implementing this approach in their day-to-day work. We can see sometimes science teachers feel that improving reading skills does not concern them, and we have to to change this.
Yeah. In our experience, in the teachers have a rejection of external evaluation. This is something that we are trying to manage. No? There is always some reluctancy to external evaluation, so we have to really work a lot with this, trying to understand how PISA and external evaluation can help them in the practice. This is something that we are focusing there as well.
Yeah, this plan could be a simple way to approach, to extend this approach. And it's clear we need some devices to consolidate this over time. We are aware of some shortcomings, like we need to look more closely at the needs of the students who are not proficient in Spanish because they have just arrived to the country, or at language disorders. And now we are happy too, because we can see from the central government, it's the same. We are working in the same direction. So we hope it has been of interest of you. Thank you very much for your attention.
So thank you very much. So let's have questions in the audience. I will take perhaps 3 questions, and we'll do just this round because of times. Anyone have a question for speakers? Now we can see you. Hello, welcome.
Yeah, we solved it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a question here. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Jens from Germany. So my question is about the decline of PISA scores from 2015 to 2018. So what is your take on that? Because you said you had implemented this strategy in 28, but it didn't really work. But the PISA scores went up, but then suddenly from 2018, from 2015 to 2018, they went down massively, as I remember. So do you have any clues about what happened then? Because that was
Let's see the other questions. Candidate, please, Rosa. So we have another one. Yalte, please. And then we'll answer everything afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Malte Meilvang from Denmark. This is a question to Heini from Faroe Islands. So you used PISA data to diagnose which areas of mathematics you had weaknesses in the Faroe Islands. Did you also use the PISA frameworks, release PISA items to figure out how to teach the modeling process in mathematics, or did you just use PISA for identifying the problem? Thank you.
So does anyone else wants to ask another question? So if not, we'll pass first to Rosa.
Okay. Well, I think it was not a good year in general, but we think that the fact of doing the evaluation by computers had a really impact in Spain, or at least in our region. And also we are sure that a lot of teachers had finished their careers, and they weren't in the school. So this approach and all this, the nature of the spirit of the old plan had gone. They weren't using this approach in the practices in the school, and that's what we have noted now, that a lot of people didn't know about this approach.
Yes, the plan started in 2008, and it ran for 4 years, only 4 years. So all the training was done in 4 years, and then we noticed some decline. That's why we have started again, and in the region they want to make an effort again, because for these reasons of people going finishing the profession and new teachers starting without the training, then the training was lost.
Yes, thank you for the question. So we analyzed in great detail the various results from the latest assessment, but also from previous results to try to identify focus areas. And actually, there are many things that can be improved in the Faroe Islands mathematical literacy. But when we designed these interventions, we had to choose certain focus areas, and mathematical modeling was something that was clearly something that needed to be worked on, and also because this is not something that has been a part of the curriculum in the Faroe Islands. Faroese students are simply not used to working with mathematical modeling, but also this aspect of digital tools not being used is something that we wanted to address with these interventions. And so you asked also if we used the model when we designed the tasks and the teaching guidelines, and etc. And that we did. We used all the released mathematics items from the previous assessments and the latest one. And also we used the mathematics framework as inspiration to design these tasks, and also to support the professional development of the teachers, so they get an introduction into mathematical modeling and the way that it's used in PISA, and so they are somehow, we're really trying to work with practice in this project. We're really trying to develop the teachers, and it's more of a co-creation of these teaching sequences together with the teachers. So we're hoping that it will develop lasting, sustainable development of practice.
So thank you. We will not have any questions online. So thank you for you both attending and joining us online. Thank you so much. Thank you also, Hingi, for the presentations. And we'll pass to the next panel. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So now we move to the second half of this session. So we are now on session 2, looking at teaching and learning practices, improving teaching practices. And I hand it over now to Miyako Ikeda, Senior Analyst at the OECD Directorate for Education and Skills in the PISA team.
So we will continue focusing on teaching and learning practices. So Antoine and Zbigniew and also Jose, can you come up to the stage, please? Jose as well, yes. So we will start with Antoine Baudin, and he will look into the detail of mathematics items. So you will share with us this item analysis and then what can we learn from them. And then I believe that Rafael is also online. Is it? Rafael's there? Okay, so it's going to be only Antoine. Your responsibility is high. You will present. And Antoine is associate researcher at the Research Institute on Mathematics Teaching at the University de la Méditerranée. So please go ahead. Thanks.
So, does it work? Can you hear me? Okay. So thanks to inviting me, and I am happy to be there. Having, please, what to do? So I was interested in and involved in international studies for more than 30 years. And being a researcher in the didactics of mathematics, as well as a math educator, I have long sought to find out how PISA can directly be beneficial for teaching purposes. In this presentation, short presentation, I will demonstrate as a possible way to better use PISA math cognitive data to inform students' cognitive functioning worldwide. My at-distance co-presenter is a professor of informatics who has taken a large part in the research presented here. So, what to do? Problem with my computer. So, what are the rationale for the research? I will prefer, okay. So, in fact, I'd like first to explain quickly the rationale for the research. Yeah. Oh, fine. So, the rationale for the research, the objectives, the context, and the research methodology we used, and point out some results and possible lessons for PISA and for PISA participating countries. I am not too good at that, excuse me. So, in fact, PISA produces a considerable mass of data widely used by managers and executives of educational systems, by the expert teams in charge of developing curricula. I was a member of this kind of groups. Sometimes the data are useful for teacher trainers, sometimes only, but not very useful directly for teachers and classroom practices. In this research, we wanted to explore the possibilities to make better use of PISA data for mathematics teachers and teaching practices. The objectives is where analyze of the results of the PISA 2012 survey on mathematics literacy. Why 2012? Because it was when we began the study, the research, the last possible data usable for mathematics. The main field was mathematics in 2012. So we needed to use raw data, not processed data. We need, for didactic purposes, we need raw data. What really the students have done when they were confronted with the booklets they had to inform. That's from an international perspective and from an educational and didactic point of view. When I speak of didactics, to point out the fact that we are trying to learn to better understand the processes used by students, their cognitive functioning. And we think that it's possible to find some interesting facts, evidence from the PISA data in international point of view, because as a national, we could have direct information, but it's not the same. So our research questions were, beyond differences in achievement between countries, beyond scales and palmareses, can PISA reveal significant differences in the students' cognitive organization? Can implicative statistical analysis, I will explain that later on, can this theory, data processing theory, can help to study this question? Can this type of research help teachers better understand students' cognitive behavior? So the first thing is about difficulty of items. With PISA, we tend to think that difficulty is an intrinsic quality, feature of items. That's not the case. When we compare the real difficulty the students had when making the task, the difficulty is not at all the same across the world. Difficulty is not intrinsic. It depends, that is true everywhere and every time. It depends on the context, it depends on the group. But with PISA, the precautions have been taken by the design of PISA to make the difficulty, the range of difficulties coherent and the same across the world. That's for instance, the DIF, the differential item functioning index. But in fact, it's not true. When you look at the items and the results of the items, you have a change, a big change of order across the world. I can show something. So, first observation is what I just have said. We observe differences in the range of resented difficulties. For instance, we use the strategy of calculating the inversion, the number of inversion in the range of difficulties. To pass from the range of difficulty in France to the range of difficulty PISA had processed this fact. We have 247 inversions to do. We have less inversions in Greece, more in Korea, for instance, more in Japan. You can see just here that Japan and Korea and Singapore too, the number of inversion from the official PISA range of difficulty is much more important than in European countries, for instance. I have just two items here. We have an item PM 914. In Japan, the success was 72%, 0.72. In Finland, 13. What makes this kind of difference? This huge difference. But also, the range was 61 in Japan and just 7 in the order of difficulty, from the lowest difficulty to the most difficult. 7. These teachers are interested by this kind of thing. Why in my country is that, and why in other country? It's not just about percentage of success, it's the order of the difficulties. What can explain that? That is very interesting for teachers. They ask for that. Another case, another example where the range is also inverse. We need to talk with teachers, to talk with math teachers and math educators, with people in charge of that. We need to have to use some items, to show some items. We have done that in Algeria, in Morocco, in other countries, in France too. And that is always interesting when we can have, and we have with PISA, some researchers say we can do research because we don't have the items. We can do a lot with the released item. We can do a lot. Well, I have just 5 minutes. So the research methodology I can explain is a bit, it's a theory of processing data. And we, in fact, look at the items. 2 items. We can have I don't find my word, but you can see the image. 2 items, 2 groups of students. The one in green succeed the item A, and the other group succeed the item B. In the first picture, you have what we call in logic, in true logic, an implication, logical implication. If a student succeeds in A, you are sure he will succeed in B. But in fact, we never find, we can find, but usually you can over part. And what interests the theory we use is the invraisemblance of what we find under probabilistic theory. If you have few examples of the non-integration of A in B, you are in a fuzzy logic, you have a kind of implication, almost implication. And that is what our tool showed. We have a lot of things we had a lot of things to do to process the PISA data to arrive at what we call the matrix of data crossing the items. In fact, we had 84 items shared by all the countries we have studied 84 maths. And we had to process to find the index, okay, of the index of implication. So the matrix itself is presented as a graph, but oriented graph. It's not a theory about correlations. It's about implication. If A, then B. And that way, I can show that now. We find paths of success of students. For instance, here I have the graph of the 21 items, space and forms for France and for Germany. From that and for the matrices, we can think about the differences between the countries in this kind of domain. We can extract some chain, some paths. Is that observed in France? Is it the same in Germany, in Italy, in Singapore? We have done that for a lot of countries. And that is not the case. But we have to cope with the resemblances and the differences. And with teachers, it's very interesting to see what is it here? What does that mean for student thinking, for student cognitive behavior? Well, I have no time to, but in the graph we find key items, and these key items mean mean a lot for teaching purposes. They are keys for the rest of the test. I think I should have, that is, I let that for some results. The order of difficulty of items varies across countries. I told that. Depending on the country, the results for the items are more or less related. Application. Reflecting a greater or lesser degree of cohesion or dispersion in students' results. Some items may be considered key items. Their success may be considered necessary or sufficient for success in a significant number of other items. So possible lesson, no, I just will say teachers are interested, but they need examples. They need to enter the details and not just to be oppressed by scales. It's interesting for many purposes, but not for students, not for teachers. So, excuse me, I can answer some questions if you like.
Thank you, Antoine. It's a very interesting presentation. And then I'm sure you have a lot of questions, but hold on to it. And then we move on to the next presenter, Zbigniew Kalpinski. He's a researcher at the European Commission Joint Research Center. Zbigniew now will talk about the math performance in a slightly different perspective, and he will touch upon the very important topic of the use of digital devices in learning. Please go ahead.
Hello, good morning to everyone. Thanks to the organizers for giving me the opportunity to present the joint work with my colleague, Giorgio Di Pietro. So many of the things I'll be talking about in the introductory part of my presentation will be echoing what we've already heard this morning. So let me jump in directly to the background behind our study. So as we are all familiar now, there was a drop in students' mathematics performance between the two most recent PISA cycles between 2018 and 2022. We saw the presentation by Tomek Gajdarowicz earlier this morning, and he showed that there was a consistent drop in overall performance. We saw in the presentation from the Faroe Island about the drop in mathematics in that country. If we look at the official PISA report, we can find an estimate of the average drop in mathematics performance by nearly 15 points. We can also look at the underachievement rates. So the proportion of students who failed to reach the minimum level of proficiency, level 2 in PISA, increased between 2018 and 2022. On average, at the EU level, the increase was by 7 percentage points from 22% to 29%. And as you probably expect, the increase in underachievement was not equal across all student groups. The socioeconomically disadvantaged students increased a more rapid growth in underachievement than their more privileged, more advantaged peers. So of course, a good chunk of the increase in underachievement or overall performance drop in mathematics can be attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic and the disruption it caused in education system. Again, we had many different estimates of the learning loss. My co-author, Giorgio Di Pietro, he published a meta-analysis last year about the learning loss due to COVID, and the overall estimate is roughly 1/5 of the standard deviation in student learning. However, in mathematics and science, the overall learning loss was greater than in other subjects. So it also points out to how severe the learning loss is. However, it needs to be pointed out that not all of the decrease in mathematics performance can be due to COVID, because In some countries, the decrease in mathematics performance was already underway before the pandemic. Okay, what happened during COVID was just it strengthened the pre-existing trend. However, probably we can guess that the loss would have been smaller if it weren't for the disruption. So okay, maybe I'll skip this one. Generally, we understand that mathematics as basic skill are important for various outcomes for students later in their lives. Now, understanding the significance of mathematics, we try to go through the literature, searching for studies, identifying successful interventions or measures taken by education systems or schools to improve their students' mathematics performance. And we specifically looked at studies that employed experimental or quasi-experimental design to test the efficiency or effectiveness of a specific intervention. And as you can imagine, the various interventions that we looked at are quite diverse. We tried to group them into various groups. We ended up with 10 of them. I show only a few examples here. And of course, given the time limitations, we won't be able to go through all of them. I will focus on the first one, technology-aided instruction, which in general involves the use of various digital tools and resources to well, in the mathematics instruction and in the mathematics teaching to improve students' performance. And in general, again, the context that increased interest in the use of digital tools for mathematics instruction in particular and in education in general was the rapid transition to remote learning and teaching that happened during the COVID disruption. So in a very short time, students in schools and their teachers were forced to switch from in-presence instruction to remote learning and teaching, and that necessitated the use of various forms of digital tools, not just devices, but also specialized software, online content, and various other resources, digital resources that were instrumental in delivering lessons to students. But again, while COVID proved very, very important in this process, we need to understand that the process of digital transition in education was already underway in many countries even before COVID. And now, again, as Tomek was saying, we now think that COVID is gone, so we no longer need to care about its consequences, but that's not true. We still need to keep in mind that digital education and digital resources in education continue to be relevant policy issues. Disruptions, maybe not on as large a scale as that comparable to COVID, but disruptions in education still happen, and the use of digital resources to ensure continuity in education are still an important policy issue. I mean, as recently as last year in New York, there was a period of very bad air quality that forced students to stay at home, and because of this, they relied on digital tools to access lessons. So regardless of the fact that COVID pandemic is now over, and the digital tools and their use in education continue to be a relevant policy issue. Looking at the studies that we identified, we didn't find a consistent effect of the use of digital tools in mathematics instruction for students' performance. Overall, the picture is quite mixed. While some forms of interventions proved quite efficient, others are less positive. Some solutions work better when targeted at some groups of students rather than at others, but in general, there is no consistent effect that using digital tools always leads to an improvement in students' scores in mathematics. So with these ideas in mind, we endeavored on an analysis of data from the most recent PISA wave to see to what extent students' mathematics performance correlates with the use of digital tools in mathematics lessons. I won't be going through all the arcane details of the analysis. I guess all of you are familiar with what PISA is, how it is carried out, and how mathematics proficiency is measured. Let me only say that in our analysis, we restricted the focus to OECD countries in which the optional ICT questionnaire was fielded as part of the national survey. And well, due to unavailability of some key variables, we had to drop Israel and Costa Rica. Overall, we had more than 2,100 students from more than 25 countries and 8,000 schools. Like I said, our focus was on students' mathematics performance, and we wanted to see to what extent the use of digital technologies or digital resources in mathematics lesson is predictive of students' scores on the PISA mathematics test. However, given that PISA is a cross-sectional study, we included a whole range of control variables to make sure to minimize the risk that the correlations we detect are spurious. So here you can see the list of all the variables. This is just descriptive labels for each of the label. There's like usually a group of at least 2 variables which are supposed to capture the effect of the specific variable. And because we were using data from both students and school questionnaire, it allowed us to use a multi-level approach in analyzing student scores. So from the school questionnaire, we used information about some background characteristics, such as whether the school is located in a rural or urban area. However, we also included some information about training opportunities for teachers, specifically mathematics teachers, specifically in the area of integrating digital tools into mathematics instruction. And okay, there are some technical details which I rather skip. Happy to say a little more later on if questions about this arise. Okay. Here's a slide with descriptive statistics. It shows the average differences, well, the differences in average mathematics performance across countries, across the countries included in the analysis in PISA 2022. We can see that there is a lot of variation. Here's another piece of descriptive analysis. This is like the main independent variable in our analysis, the use of digital resources in mathematics lessons. We saw earlier the wording of the question in a presentation by our colleague from Faroe Islands. Here, I'm just using this slide to show how much variation there is across the countries in terms of the frequency of the use of digital resources in math lessons. So generally, it was an ordinal question. Students were asked, how often does it happen that you use digital resources in your math lessons, with responses ranging from never or almost never to more than half. There's a residual category of unknown that includes students who failed to answer that question for some reason or other, but also students who said, I don't have that subject, which seems rather odd for a 15-year-old not to have mathematics in school. But so we can see there's a lot of variation. I mean, if we look at the bar for Denmark, more than 50% of the students answered that they use digital resources in mathematics lessons, always or nearly always. But we also have the example of Japan, where the proportion is much smaller. Okay. So now, without further ado, let me just jump into our main result, and this is the result of the multivariate analysis from the regression analysis that shows how students, the expected score in mathematics varies with the frequency of the use of digital resources. As we can see, the pattern here is U-shaped. The red line marks the reference category, so all the points on that line are in reference to or in comparison to the reference category. So what we can see here is that if we move So the red line is for students who say we never use or nearly never use digital resources in our mathematics lessons. If we move to students who declare that they use about half or more than half of their mathematics lesson, we can see that there's a significant drop in the mathematics score. For those students who use the resources nearly always, we can see that there is a jump up, but it doesn't reach the level that is found. So overall conclusion from this graph is that students who declare that they use digital tools in their mathematics lessons seem to be outperformed by students who never use these tools. This is a graph, I mean, due to the lack of time, I won't be discussing this. It shows the differentiation and variation across the countries. We can see that there is a bit of variation. But like I said, I mean, I'll be happy to say about something about this later on. To give a little more context to the result, because like I said, we used a lot of control variables in our analysis. We find that students who in general are more used to using digital tools for learning than for leisure seem to perform a little better than their counterparts who use digital tools mostly for leisure than for learning. And also, students in participating in PISA were asked to what they think about overall their school's ICT infrastructure, and their assessments also correlated somehow with their mathematics performance. Students who had a more affirmative, more positive views on their resources employed by their schools. The ICT resources in their schools had better scores in mathematics. So the key point here would be that it's not enough to give just students some digital tools. They also need to be trained in some way about how to use them. I'll skip this one. Basically, the conclusion, apart from what I've just said about the knowledgeability of students in using their digital tools, one important conclusion that follows from the analysis we performed concerns the preparation of teachers, specifically their ability to integrate digital tools in mathematics instruction. We found that schools in which teachers are given opportunity to be trained, to have professional development training relevant to the integration of digital tools into mathematics instruction, overall, these schools perform slightly better in mathematics than schools in which teachers are not given such an opportunity. And with this, I'll stop. Thank you very much for your attention and ready to take questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Zivik. So now move on to the non-mathematics topic, which is a growth mindset. So I will invite Jose Santa Olaya Tovar, advisor at Ministry of Education of Castilla y León, Spain. Floor is yours, please.
Thanks so much, Miyako, and thanks to the organization for inviting me and for the help and support during this process. Well, all of you probably know that in the last quarter of the 20th century, Carol Dweck, a social psychologist from Stanford University, wonders why equally able children respond differently to challenges and failure. And she thinks that it depends on the set of beliefs that they have about their own intelligence. So those who think that their intelligence is given by birth, is something fixed that they can't change, tend to reject challenges and bend in the face of failure. While those who think that they can improve their intelligence with effort, that their intelligence can grow, tend to accept challenges and overcome two difficulties. After that, she defines and implicit theory of intelligence and talks about incremental theory of intelligence and growth mindset. And she argues that it's possible to increase people growth mindset just teaching them how the brain works physiologically. Numerous studies have been done showing our relationship between growth mindset and academic performance. One of them is the OECD publication Sky is the Limit that say us that in PISA 2018, the students who had growth mindset performed 31 points higher in reading, 27 in science, and 23 in mathematics after accounting for socioeconomic and cultural level of students and schools. And the research and the data from PISA 2018 show us that vulnerable students may benefit more from developing a growth mindset than the advantaged ones. It stands to reason if we think that the prototype of fixed mindset student is a student that is a boy, a repeated boy, probably from a disadvantaged background. PISA data says us that more girls than boys have a growth mindset, more advantage than disadvantaged students, and that the percentage of non-repeaters that have a growth mindset is 50% higher in PISA 2018 than that of repeaters after accounting for socioeconomic and cultural level of students. Besides, growth mindset was selected as indicator of cognitive well-being of students in PISA 2018. Taking all of this in account, we are going to the context. I come from Castilla y León, which is another region from Spain. In this case, it's the biggest region of Spain and one of the biggest regions in Europe. And in Castilla y León, like in Spain, students can repeat once in primary and once in secondary. If a student didn't repeat any time in primary, can repeat twice in secondary. In Spain, the secondary education starts at 7th grade. So a 7th grader who has repeated once in primary, if repeat once more in the 7th grade, then is in high risk of early school dropout. Yes, just repetition in Spain and in, I think, every region in Spain is a risk factor for early school dropout. So it's the reason, and we can say that the prototype of early school leaver in Spain is a boy who has repeated and probably with a fixed mindset and probably from a disadvantaged environment or background. And this is the reason why in Castilla y León we have developed several actions in order to reduce the percentage of repeaters, and it have an effect in the reduction of the repetition rates along the years, a gradual reduction of the repetition grades. Following the publication of the PISA 2018 data, the Ministry of Education of Castilla y León decided to elaborate a program in order with the objective to develop the growth mindset of 7th graders. With this objective, we contact the chair of neuroeducation at the University of Barcelona and asked them this task. They designed 5 units in order to be applied in the tutoring class of the 7th graders. I didn't comment you in the previous slide, but there is a drop in Spain, not in Spain. In 2022, there was a drop in Castilla y León in the percentage of students who promoted to the next grade from 98% in primary to 90% in 7th grade. So there is a drop of almost 10 points. And we decided to apply this program in 7th grade by this reason. So we decided to prepare this program, and the chair of neuroeducation designed 5 units in order to be applied in the 7th grade tutoring class. And we started with this. We called it MAS program. And it started in 2023-2024. 17 schools participated in it. It started with a face-to-face teachers training that was attended by the 7th grade tutors of the schools participating in the project and the counselors of the schools. And it was taught by the professors of the chair of neuroeducation at the University of Barcelona. Once the training was finished, the tutors, helped by the counselors, started to apply the tutoring sessions in the tutoring class. Every session was designed to be applied in 1 or 2 sessions of 50 minutes. And during this process, each school received 2 online support sessions by professors from the chair of neuroeducation at the University of Barcelona, with the aim to accompany them and help them in the process of application. Once all the process had finished, all the schools could continue applying the program on their own. And every new school year, another 17 new schools start to participate and begin to get benefit from this program. We designed a simple evaluation for this program that had 2 points. For the first one, we choose a peer sample of 34 schools, 17 that included the 17 schools that participated in the program. That was the experimental group, and another 17 that had the same socioeconomic and cultural scale according to a census evaluation that was made in May 2024, and the same percentage of 8th grade repeaters. And the schools were paired to by size. And we measured the percentage of students who promote to the next grade before the application of the program in experimental and control group, and after the application of the program. And besides, we prepare a short form for the counselors participating in the program. The differences in differences method did not show significant differences between experimental and control group, although the most encouraging results were found between the boys who had repeated a year. But we saw that while in the 2023, there wasn't statistically significant differences between experimental and control group, there were in 2024, with a p-value of 0.0241. It was a traditional linear regression, and we did the multi-level model too, and we, in this case, got that the differences were significant at 90% only, with a p-value of 0.0836. according to the counselors who participated in the program, they observed progress in the students. They say that the program increased the expectations of success, that it improves students' ability to excel, that it helps to see effort as the path to learning, and that it fosters resistance to frustration. They value the training and the scientific foundation of the program as strong points. To increase the graduation and promotion rates in secondary school, it's necessary to carry out actions not only focused on traditional educational reinforcement, but also others aimed at improving the cognitive and affective well-being of students. For us, it has been helpful the collaboration of teachers and psychologists. Have been teachers and psychologists collaborating in the elaboration of the units in the chair of the neuroeducation at the University of Barcelona, and teachers and psychologists working together in the application of the sessions in the tutoring class. In this way, I think that we can make quality interventions that improve student well-being and performance. Although online interventions have demonstrated effectiveness to improve growth mindset, an intervention with the involvement of teachers and counselors can be more solid in the long term. And research shows that growth mindset improves when teachers and families have growth mindset. Sorry, I can see. Okay, see. When teachers and families have growth mindset. So perhaps the next step could be a mass program for families. In my opinion, a growth mindset is a pill with no side effects that could be very good for families, for students, and for teachers. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Jose. Now we would like to move on to the question session. Is there any question from the floor? Yes, please. Yeah.
Thank you. So my question is for Mr. Karpinski. Thank you for the presentation. You mentioned that overall the use of digital resources those students seem to have the worst or not the best results, but also that there were mixed results as far as I could understand. And of course, the use of digital resources is quite a broad category. What does it mean? Of course, you can use certain software, you can use certain tools. Do you have any explanation to, or have you seen any indications of different use of digital tools and how that can affect the results?
Thank you for the question. Actually, there is one question about the digital resources online. So I would like to read that question as well. So use of digital resource in the mathematics instruction is welcome. Well, however, the concern is that increased use of digital devices may distract students, hindering their conceptual learning. Is there any solution for this? This is the second question. And we would like to collect more questions. Yes, Annabella, please.
So thank you. My question is for Jose. I really like the presentation and the approach of this perception of how growth mindset can impact what in Portugal is also a very problem, the dropouts and also the repeaters, the grade repetition in schools. And actually, my question is, after you had this increase of grade repetition in 7th grade, did you went again to the PISA data and isolated the 7th graders students in the PISA data that you had in your sample? Perhaps we have quite few in our national sample, and saw the differences between them and the model graders in more detail than just repeating and not repeating. Thank you.
So is there any other question? Okay, so one more, and then we will ask the speaker to respond.
Yes, thank you very much, Jose, for this very, very interesting presentation on growth mindset. I'm not a psychologist, I'm an economist by training, but I'm a bit intrigued by the statistical modeling issues involved in the experiment. We can expect that there is some mutual causality, a reciprocal causality between growth mindset and great repetition. And moreover, that there's some effect of expectations, teacher expectations and parental expectations, etc. How sure are you that there's a linear causal effect between growth mindset, great repetition, and success in the further career?
Okay, so Zubik, you will respond first and then move on to Jose.
Okay, thank you very much for the questions. I will address both of them because they seem to be interrelated. I'll start with the last one. I don't have a solution. I don't have a solution. I mean, we understand the complexity involved in the analysis. In general, I agree with you that the question as worded in PISA was just, do you use digital resources? Okay, this is very general. Okay, the question doesn't follow up with what kind of resources do you use, or what types of topics. Who introduces the digital resources? Do you have freedom to choose whatever online or digital resources is there, or is the teacher who kind of directs the introduction? So there is a lot of heterogeneity, or a lot of uncertainty or inclarity about the specific tools that are being used and how they are used. Okay. And in your presentation, you emphasize the fact that there are different areas in mathematics for which the use of digital tools may be more or less helpful. And again, this is an area that would need additional follow-up analysis to have a better understanding. We can easily imagine a scenario in which I use digital resources in my mathematics lessons to get a reasonable answer to a homework question, for instance, or a task I was given. I can ask ChatGPT to spit out an answer, and likely it's going to be correct. But it doesn't necessarily help me understand or well, use correctly mathematical concepts underlying that specific task. Yes. So the whole question boils down not just the use of digital resources as such, but what kind of resources, in what way they are introduced, and how they are used to improve the understanding of underlying mathematical concepts by the students. This is, I guess, the approach that should be taken. Thanks.
So I just want to share a little bit more our insight related to the second question submitted through the online. So at the OECD, we did quite a lot of analysis about the digital destruction. And last December, we released the PISA 2022 Volume 2, in which we did the analysis, showing the more frequent use of digital device in classroom is correlated with the higher instance or report of the digital destruction. And there are several questions asking students that what kind of digital policy implement in the school. In the school, and we asked that question. And then we try to correlate that. And then only one question is related to the reduction of the destruction, which is phone banning, prohibiting a phone in school. But we did further analysis, find out that the student in those schools where phone is banned, students tend not to develop their control skill, the skill to control the use of the cell phone. So that we do not have the concrete recommendation for the moment, but it's very important to come up with the policy, digital policy, which enhance the student use of cell phone in a responsible manner while reducing the distraction. Okay.
Hi.
Nyako, can I add something to this discussion here? João from Portugal.
Yes, please.
Yes, so there is another evidence from PISA where you actually look at the time that the students were using digital tools for learning, and your results is up to 2 hours has a positive effect per day, but after 2 hours there's a negative effect. And just last month, there was another international study called ICLS that evaluated digital literacy, information and computer literacy, that is the name of the study. And of all the participating countries on that study, only 2 showed an increase in the digital literacy of the students. All the others had a decrease. And so the conclusion of the international report was, well, you know, we didn't see improvement in digital literacy of the students because it was a research hypothesis that, you know, online learning during the COVID pandemic would increase the students' digital literacy. It did not. And I think it's really important, we go again back to policy, for the policymakers to understand that it's just not enough to give digital tools to the students, because there is no such thing as native digital learners. Students do need to be taught how to use the technology in the classroom. So I think that's why you're seeing the results that, you know, if you have a lot of digital tools in your classrooms, you don't really necessarily get better results, because first, the teachers don't know how to use it. Yeah, that's true, sorry. And second, no, there is no such thing as native digital kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Joao. And this is a nice lead to our PISA 2025 Innovative Domain in Learning in Digital Award. This is exactly what we are looking into. So the result will come out in 2026. Jose, please.
Okay, thanks for your question. Our program is a very humble program because we started the last year with 17 schools. If we started with all the schools, we could measure the effect on the 7th graders, perhaps. And Castilla y León is participating in PISA from 2003 because it was one of the first regions in participating in Spain were Castilla y León, Madrid, and Catalonia, and we have data from 2003. But we participate with a small sample of 50 centers. When if you want to have a mean, it's enough. But if you want to see what happens with the 7th graders, it's not enough, really, because the error bars are quite huge. So I think that we could use perhaps PISA for schools. It could be an interesting way of measure this program, making a pretest before applying in 17 schools and afterwards. And it could be an strategy that we can use afterwards, but who knows? And your question is that if I am sure that growth mindset has an impact in proficiency and in proficiency or in it was that kind and avoiding grade. Well, our results are very weak because the differences in differences method did not show statistically significant differences, and we only have find differences after the application, but not the differences between the differences were significant. I only can see that we started with 17 schools, 15 of which still continue applying the program. This year we have another 17 schools, and we are going to continue evaluating the program, and perhaps we can have more sample. And I am not sure of anything more because I am not just a researcher. I work for the Ministry of Education of Castilla y León, and I am not a specialist in this kind of research. I've learned what I could, but I am convinced personally, but I can't say anymore.
All right, so Maya allow me to go 5 minutes over, so that one more round of questions. Is there any question? So okay, please.
Awesome. I work in mathematics education myself. And in Britain, we have tons and tons of digital resources, apps that we encourage all our students to download into their devices. And many of these apps have feedback features, have homework, mark them, grade them. They're also teaching and learning resources for teachers to actually make use of in the classroom. So we are big advocates of digital resource in mathematics education. What I want to put out to PISA is there a possibility that there could be some research around the most popular mathematics apps so that they can find the efficiency? Because I'm really, really concerned about the outcome of what Mr. Kaplinski has just shared. I want to believe that the use of digital resources impacts positively on mathematics education. I'm a big advocate of it. And I would honestly like to see how well these resources, through PISA research and all your sophisticated data analysis skills, I'd like to see that this is effective or this is not effective. I'd like a research to be launched into the very, very popular ones. I mean, I could tell you 20 right now. That's for a private discussion, but please, it would be nice for us not to condemn this apps or digital resources. They're very extremely useful, and many of them actually support teacher workload. They mark, they grade. Some of them contain exam questions from different exam bodies. Many of them have the differentiation techniques that vary from culture to culture. So we can't condemn them. I think that research that you've just shared can actually be elaborated. So please, if it's possible, would you be willing to do that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. Sorry if I burst your bubble with the presentation. I mean, I wasn't advocating the ban on digital devices at all. What I was trying to say is that overall we don't find a positive relationship, but it doesn't mean that digital resources, when used in mathematics lesson, are damaging to students. Okay, the graph that I just skipped, it showed that there is a great deal of variation across countries. And for instance, there are some countries like Denmark where students who use digital resources in math lessons more often are found to score much better than their peers. So probably it could be attributed to how the digital tools are introduced into math lessons. And then, okay, on a more personal note, like anecdotal evidence, I used to teach statistics at the university, and I encourage students to use various types of applications for simulation, because if you don't understand the concept, try to simulate what the concept implies. And for these various types of applications, digital applications can be quite handy, because you can easily simulate different worlds, as it were, using very simple tools. You just need to know how to use them and how to interpret the result. And I think this is, because like I said, even if you use a simple calculator to do, I don't know, basic calculations, okay, you get a number, you just write it down in your notebook and you show it to a teacher, you're satisfied with doing the homework, but you still may not be able to understand what you've just done, okay? So, like I said, the mere access to digital technologies may not be sufficient for students to be able to use them efficiently and effectively for improving their mathematics skills. So I wasn't trying to kind of advocate the opposite of what you are trying to advocate. Yes, I should. I mean, I fully support. It's just it needs to be done in a coherent and reasonable way. That's I guess the message. Thank you.
All right. So very last question. Yes, briefly, please.
Thank you. Can I please ask Jose a question? So this is Sarah from Medical University in Australia. So I'm particularly interested in the first, at the beginning of your presentation, you had a graph about growth mindset in the middle, and you had students' well-being and the performance for the immigrant students and the disadvantaged students. If I understood it correctly, is that this growth mindset is a magic pill that we can improve the students' well-being and also the performance, right? So, I mean, from the literature I have been reading that there is argument about that, some people argue about that the improvement in the performance may sacrifice well-being. I don't totally agree with that, but I'm saying that could you please explain to us that how do you come up with this diagram? Is that I mean I want to understand is if really growth mindset can improve both. This is certainly a magic pill that everybody should take. Thank you.
Well, it's just I think that there are numerous studies that relate growth mindset with improved academic performance. And if we could make a meta-analysis, probably we would be another that say the opposite very well. But there are some studies that say that why I think that it is possible. Well, I think that it's just the change of the mindset of the students, because when they are taught how the brain works, that the brain is plastic, that neural synapses are done, that it can grow, that we can, it's not so much important how many neurons we have, but how many connections there are between them. If they are aware that they can improve and they can grow their brain, they can have a kind of hope that they can improve and they can learn. Perhaps it's not a silly thought. It's not to think that I will be Einstein, but I can improve my knowledge in physics or in maths. I probably couldn't be as good as Gauss, but I could be a better good at maths, at solving problems. I can improve. It's just to teach the students that it is possible through the teaching how the brain works physiologically and some other attitudes. Even it's related with the way as teachers deal with the class, how they praise the students, if they praise the student, if they praise the process they are making. I think that there are some things about a growth mindset that really change the mindset of the students and really change how the class is dealing.
Thank you.
I don't know if I have answered you.
Thank you, Jose. We can continue discussion over the coffee, and then we are going to close the session 2 now. And then thank you very much for your comment. And then I just want to let you know that we are now thinking about the PISA 2029 questionnaire. So if you have any ideas to be included in PISA 2029, please come and talk to me over the lunch or coffee. And then how to efficiently use the AI or digital device is exactly the target for us. It's not the banning, but the efficient and effective use, meaningful use of digital devices, something that we would like to look into in 2029. So thank you very much. And then Somaya.